All right. Good morning, everyone. So excited to bring to you the December 2024 market update. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Some interesting information here. As we look again at the 5 county area: Wake, Durham, Johnston, Orange, and Chatham counties. So first of all, we're going to look at December numbers as well as several year-to-date numbers to hopefully give you some good context to talk with your clients about. First of all, new listings were up in December. So that's year over year, just over 1,400 new listings in that 5 county area. Year to date, new listings were up 12.3%. So this is a really good number. I'll reflect back to this. I say it's good in terms of we need more listings. We know there's demand out there. And what it's debatable about how motivated that demand is, but there's certainly demand out there, and we need new listings coming on the market. When we look at closed sales, year over year, they were up 19.2% in December. So that's great. That means we had really good, strong demand for housing in October and November, with closings happening in December, up over 2,000 closings in December. So it's fantastic when we think about where it was last year at just over 1,700. So year to date, closed sales were still down for the year. 1.2%. So we had 26,103 closings in this 5 county area. Again, that represents, compared to 2023, down 1.2% for the year. But still not terrible when we consider that for the years prior, so from 2022 to 2023, we fell off nearly 20%. And the year before that, 2021 to 2022, we fell off nearly 20%. So to only drop off basically 1%, that's almost just flat. That's kind of like us bouncing off the bottom here. And when you look at the national numbers, with about 4 million closings last year, that represents kind of the minimum based on our population, transactions that just have to happen. So this hopefully for our market as well represents the bottom, where we should start to see transaction count start to go back up, maybe not rapidly, but we should see transaction count going back up here in 2025. So we'll keep an eye on that. Median price was flat. You've heard me talk about for multiple years now that what we need is, after the COVID spike in pricing, we needed prices to remain flat. And so it's what we saw year over year, 0.1% increase. So basically flat. And then year to date up 2.3%. That's not nothing, but at least it's somewhat aligned with inflation. And we're not seeing it outpace inflation, at least on the 2024 yearly basis. So again, the mostly flat that we see, the pricing, home pricing, that's going to allow wages and other things to catch up to hopefully increase affordability. We'll get to that in a minute, because affordability in our market has not improved for several years. And then, of course, percent of list price to sale price at 98.8% in December. Look at where it was last year. It's basically the same, 98.9%. And then for the year, 99.5%. It's normal that we would see lower numbers in the fourth quarter. There's just typically a little more wiggle room. You've got more maybe motivated sellers who are putting their house on the market during the holidays. So not uncommon that we would see prices be a little bit lower in those months and a negotiation increase. But for the year, basically 0.5% off of getting what the sellers are asking for. Inventory is currently up as of December, up 8.1%. There were point-in-time inventory of 4,671 homes on the market. When we compare that down here to where things were, again, in December of 2019, so the last time period, the last comparable time period before COVID hit, there were almost 7,200 homes on the market, only 4,600. So you're talking, 50% fewer homes on the market right now compared to where we were 5 years ago pre-COVID. So we have not recovered in terms of getting that inventory where we want it to be. Supply of inventory still on the lower side, still mostly a seller's market, though certainly it's hyperlocal and depends on where the home is listed. If we look at the median sale price back in December 2019, we're at $295. Again, we come back up here, we're at $445. That still shows a huge gap from what the trend line would have been if we had just seen this kind of what I'm calling normal appreciation of 5.5%. So, of course, outpacing inflation. But where we would have been over the last 5 years, had we not had the spike during COVID, prices would only be at about $385,000. So if we saw 5.5% appreciation for each of the next 3 years, if prices remain flat here and 3 years from today, the median price was still 445, that would be in line with where we would be had we just continued to see this 5.5% appreciation and not seen the COVID spike. Now, again, looking at this, appreciation was at basically 2.3% in 2024. So it's good that's below this 5.5%, but still not flat. So the more increases we have in the coming years, the longer it's going to take for us to get back to where home prices would have been had we not seen that spike. And then let's just look at closed sales here. 2019, we had over 35,000 closed sales. 2024, we had just over 26,000. So you can see why it feels so painful out there. There's so many agents who have been in the business a long time, or those who haven't, who have really struggled the last couple of years. And it's because total transaction count is way down from where we were pre-COVID, and of course during the peak of COVID. And so again, we talk about this being hopefully the bottom. And so we should start to see an increase in number of transactions, number of closed sales we're seeing. That's going to help the churn in the market, a healthier market, hopefully a better market for the agents. So anyway, we'll continue to keep an eye on that as we dive into 2025. All right, let me just touch on a few more data points here. And we'll wrap this up. Again, this just shows you where inventory levels were throughout the year. We expect them to be falling through the end of the year, which they did. So this trend normalized a little bit as we got into the end of the year. We didn't see a spike in inventory as some people were predicting. So that's a good thing. We don't want to see a spike, but we do want to see steady increases in inventory. So we would expect that January should outpace December. And of course, we'll be back here in a month looking at those numbers and see if that's the way it is trending for 2025. And then, of course, one of the ratios I love looking at, which is number of listings needed to have a closing. So new listings to closings ratio. And we ended the year here at 1.26. If we look back here, that's where we were in 2013. And essentially, you can think of this as you have to list 5 houses in order to sell 4. So if you're the one house that doesn't sell, the market seems really bad. Or if you're an agent and you've got a listing that is sitting, it seems like the market is not moving. You're not getting showing activity. But of course, this is still a really strong ratio. So 80% of the houses that go on the market are selling the first time around. But it does, again, highlight the importance of pricing things correctly. Just know the higher this number goes, the more painful it's going to feel for sellers. The lower it goes, generally speaking, the more painful it's going to end up being for buyers because every house hitting the market is selling pretty quickly, as we can see here during these COVID years. So end of the year here at 1.26, I think that's actually a pretty healthy place to be. So if we can just continue to get some more inventory, I believe the demand is sufficient to continue to eat that up. And even with increased inventory and new listings, I don't think we'll see this number climb any higher in 2025. And then last thing I want to look at here is just the affordability index. So I've got the last 2 years for us up here. And you can see we've barely gotten into the 80s, really since the beginning of last year of 2023, so 2 years ago. And where we fit in the end of the year was 74. Again, think of 100 as being the median income can afford the median home. This means right now that the median income is only 74% roughly of what you need to afford the median home. Pre-COVID, we were at 139. That means affordability was great. It's one of the reasons why our market was so desirable. And it's one of the reasons why when COVID hit and we started having this spike in demand without enough inventory, there were so many of the large conglomerate investors coming to our area because prices were really low compared to wages. So there was a lot of growth opportunity for investors wanting to pick up real estate in this market. Well, now that inventory is frozen because those conglomerates are not selling the rental properties because this is still seen as a great place to own real estate, which it is. But it does certainly make it tougher for the owner occupants, the people trying to purchase their first home. So if we want to look at one number that's going to show you how the real estate market is doing without knowing any other data points, this housing affordability is going to tell you a lot. So in our market, as we get this to continue, hopefully going higher as we get into the next several years, that's going to include wage growth. It needs to include things like interest rates coming down so that monthly debt obligations are more manageable. That will help increase affordability. So we'll continue to watch this. Just know that we are a far cry from where we were pre-COVID. So hopefully this is some data that can help you with your talking points out there in the world. If you have questions or want to add anything, please reach out. Always happy to chat real estate data with you. So, all right, until next month, take care.